Jelly was the hardest show I've ever done, and I can't imagine a show being more difficult than that, just because that role is on stage pretty much 98% of the time. The 2% that I'm off, I'm making a quick change. I started sweating 5 minutes into the show after the first big number, and you never really get a chance to breathe or relax or rest because there's always a number or dramatic scene or a song or something that goes on. So it's incredibly taxing. And also I was dressed in wool during that show, and it was the summer, and that theater was pretty hot. And it got to the point where I was running into the dressing room intermission and just taking all my clothes off and jumping into the shower. And I'd sit under the shower until I heard 5 minutes called because it was so hot, and then I kind of put everything back on. But I said I must have burned 1,500, 2,000 calories a show on that easy. So that was a very, very difficult show. This show is the same kind in the fact that I'm also on stage most of the time, but Jeff's character, Molina, does most of the work. I get a lot of chances where I can just sit back and kind of watch, so I can take a little bit of a breather. So it's a piece of cake compared to Jelly. Both of them are very emotionally draining, though, and it's surprising to me how after my first week of performances on Saturday night, I was feeling good and just gung-ho and charging into everything. But wow, that after that last performance Saturday night, I was very, very drained. And Jeff was saying, "This is a show that sneaks up on you. You have to be real, real careful." So they're both similar in that way, but they both have their differences. This one is just, I don't sweat. It's
in this
nice.
one.
Yeah, right.
Rehearsal periods. Mm-hmm. Longer, shorter?
On Jelly, the rehearsal period that I had, I actually started, the thing that I was most concerned about in Jelly was the tap dancing, because following Gregory Hines, I mean, that's the thing that everybody's going to pay attention to. They don't really care about anything else. Everybody thinks, oh, who's the person that's going to replace him? So, and I had tapped when I was 14, 15 years old. I had only taken like a year and a half of tap, but I learned most of the difficult things there were to learn. So when they auditioned me for this, I could remember things like pickups and pullbacks and wings and the things that are very difficult. It's like riding a bike. You don't really forget them. But it's a different style of tap. I learned more of a Broadway kind of almost... the difference in the style is the Broadway style is kind of an up in the feeling, and in Jelly's Last Jam, it's more of a black style. It's rhythm tap, and it's down on the ground, and what's more... important is the sound of the tap more than the way that it looks. It's the rhythm and the intricacies and the syncopation. So it was learning a whole new style. So the month before I came out, I studied for about 5 hours a day with 3 different private teachers. I was dancing every day and trying to get that style down. And then I came out about another 3 weeks earlier just to work on the tap routines with Ted Levy, who was the tap choreographer in the show. And then I had a 3-week rehearsal period of everything else on the show. But I knew the tap would be the greatest challenge, so I wanted to make sure that I had ample time to do that because there were so many other things to concentrate on in the show. I didn't want to have to be worried about learning tap numbers also, and it turned out to be a wise thing. On this show, it was a 3-week rehearsal period that got extended to 4 on Kiss of the Spider Woman because Hal Prince was going on vacation, and we both wanted to be able to work together. And so he asked me to come out a week earlier to do the show so he would be able to work with me, which I'm very happy I did because I've always wanted to work with Hal. I've been a big admirer of his. So actually there was a lot of time on this show. And I felt very comfortable by the time we opened with the role.
Well, it's wonderful that he put you in there, because usually a stage manager puts someone into a show.
Yes, yeah. That's actually what happened with the last show, with Jelly. It was put in by a stage manager. George Wolfe wanted to work with me, but he was busy doing Angels in America at the time. And the concept of that was they were going to open in the week before my opening, and then he was going to that week come in and work with me. But as it turned out, they moved it a week up so that his opening night for Angels and my opening night were the same night. So I actually didn't get to work with George until about 2-3 weeks into the run. So I was really happy when Hal was able to work. It's just another kind of thing going with the mind of the director. You really get to see his vision, and I wanted to make sure that my vision and his vision were the same. Although I worked with a gentleman named Tom Stone, who is Hal's kind of right-hand man when it comes to Spider-Woman. He mounted the Vienna production for Hal and put a lot of people in the London production. And he's very, very articulate and knowledgeable about the characters and where you go, what you're thinking, what you're doing, and all that. He almost had too much information for me.